I started my business at 19 years old, and by 25, I've made over $1 million. And today I'm going to share with you the four mindset shifts that I made over the years that helped me accumulate this money. So, my promise for you is by the end of this video, you're going to have four mindset shifts to focus on to help you make money faster and better. Let's dive into the whiteboard. Now, before we jump into the four pillars here today, I want to ask you a question. When you look at every single guru, mentor, idol that you have in your mind who is in business, who have accumulated a lot of wealth, what is one thing they all have in common? One thing they all have in common is they have an absolutely resilient mindset. They are absolutely resilient when it comes to their mindset. If they didn't have the mindset that they have, they wouldn't have gotten to where they are. Now, this is often overlooked. We often look at the strategy and the plan and the actions, but we got to understand that the things that fuel those actions consistently over time all comes down to the mindset, the beliefs that we have. So today, that's why I'm sharing with you the four mind shifts that are going to help you transform your life in 2026. So, diving into it, the very first one that we've got here is your relationship with fear. Now, I call it your relationship with fear because no matter what on this journey, no matter how far you develop yourself, there's always going to be a little bit of fear. And the reason why is because you're human. You're having this human experience. And a part of that animal brain, there is fear living in there. There is fear there. It's just our animal cells trying to keep us safe and secure. So it comes down to your relationship with fear. If you look at most people let fear run their lives and influence their decisions. And it's why they don't typically change. They overthink, they procrastinate, they have a lot of doubt, they think now's not the right time. These are all words of the ego, which is trying to keep you stuck in the same place because the one thing the ego hates is an identity death. But in order to change your life, in order to make more money, that old identity who's gotten you to where you are now, it must change as well. So fear is going to try everything it can do to keep you locked in a prison so you do not change. So it comes down to what is your relationship with fear because nobody wants to stay stuck in the prison. That's why you're here. So, first and foremost, understanding fear. Fear's job is think of fear as like it's a production, a creation of the animal brain. And basically, it's just an illusion. It's not physical, it's not materialized, it's all in the mind, right? So fear is an illusion of the animal brain. So we have a decision to make. Will I focus? Will I put my focus? Because remember, where focus goes, energy flows. Will I put my focus into fear and why things can't work out for me and why I'm such a victim and how the world's so hard and all these circumstances I'm dealing with? Will that help me fuel my dreams or will that just help me fuel my excuse to be where I'm at right now? That's an honest question to ask ourselves. So, do we want to focus that way or we want to change our focus and put it into faith and start thinking about how things can work out for you, how you can make it work despite your circumstances? There's so many people, even billionaires, who started out with absolutely nothing, but they decided to focus on the possibility of it working out for them. And they kept going and growing and climbing that ladder, and it got them to where they are here today. So remember, fear, it's a construct. The ego is going to constantly push it out to keep you stuck and safe. The more and more you pay attention to it, the more you stay stuck in this prison of where you don't even want to be in the first place. So, understanding our relationship with fear, decide to walk on faith. So, a few practices that you can get started here with today is number one, more risk. Start taking more risk in your life. If you're terrified to join the gym because maybe you're strong with your weight and you don't feel comfortable, push yourself to join the gym. That is an action forwards to where you want to go. The only thing holding you back from it is just the comfort zone. Number two is bet on yourself more. Bet on yourself more. Trust in yourself. Don't wait for the world to change in order for you to change. Focus on yourself. Bet on yourself. That is one of the best things that you can do. Here's an example of betting on yourself and taking more risk. So I remember this was one time, one of my great friends one day. This is when I was trying to build my business. I was completely lost. Like I think I was 1 to 2 years in and I made absolutely nothing. And I already failed at 4 or 5 other businesses online. And he sent me this free course to take. And it was about high ticket sales. It was about premium coaching and actually building a proper online business. And I took the course and it helped me make my first little sum of money. And then I remember sitting at my countertop, I think it was back in maybe February or so of like 2020 or 2019 or somewhere's around there. And I was completely broken down. I just lost a bunch of money that month trying to make advertising work, and nothing worked at all. I might have gotten one client, which didn't even make me profitable. And I was completely just at loss. So sad. And then I knew I had a decision to make. I can keep stuck in this void trying to figure it out, or I can place a bet on myself. And what is that? Have been watching all the YouTube videos, all the podcasts of all the successful mentors. One thing they always said is that they have a mentor themselves. They always invest in themselves. They always invest in the coaching. And I was like, well, I've been reading the books, I've been watching the podcast, but I, that actually sounds pretty helpful to actually have a mentor or a guide. What did I do? I started searching, and I found the perfect business mentor exactly for the thing that I want to create, who's already done it and had the proof. So I messaged him. I waited a little bit, just like we all do, and I finally had the call. And I remember that night before the call the next day, um, I didn't have enough money to pay for the program. I already knew the program was going to be a five-figure investment. And I knew that, like, all the money I had saved up was basically from when I was younger working at Dairy Queen and as a carpenter for a little while. And that's all I had, but it wasn't much at all. So I remember asking my dad one night if he would help support me to do this program. And mind you, at the time, my parents didn't believe in the business. They didn't know. They're like any other parent. They want you to be safe and secure. So they wanted me to go to college. They want me to go to school. And I remember I asked my dad, and I didn't ask him the right way. I was panicky and I was all, coming from fear. So I did not approach him as a proper salesman. And I remember asking him though, and he just absolutely shut it down. Like, absolutely no freaking way. And I'll be honest with you, that was the motivation I needed to say, you know what? F it. I'm going to do it anyways, and I'm going to prove you wrong. Because at that time, I just took that as fuel. A lot of us at that time, we let that fear, right? We let that of, okay, well, these people are telling me that I probably can't do it. Maybe I should listen to them. This is when you need to be stubborn. You need to bet on yourself and say, no, if I listen to them, I go back to exactly where I don't want to be. So I'm going to make a new decision moving forwards. So I had the call the next day. And I remember that call, my heart was pounding into my chest. I was so scared. And at the end of the call, he gave me the price. And I just sat there like, oh my gosh, this is literally, I think, more money than I have in my bank account. And at the end of the call, you know what I said though? Is I said, yes, but you need to help me make it work. And they did. They helped me make it work. They broke it down to a game plan and a payment plan. And I decided that day, I'm all in. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to make it work no matter what. I bet on myself and I placed a risk on myself. But guess what? I felt more fear than I've ever felt in my life. I felt so scared, so terrified. This was feeling like I was jumping off a cliff into the abyss, and I had no idea if there was going to be a trampoline or something to catch me on the way down. But I knew for a fact that I was so done. I was in such a great amount of pain that I was sick and tired of being on that cliff. And this comes to the idea of when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change, that's when you take the leap to change. So you have to bet on yourself. You have to develop a proper relationship with fear. And even if you feel the fear, you got to do it anyways. Otherwise, the illusion wins and you stay stuck in the prison. Moving on. And also, by the way, that story has a great end because that story allowed me to build my six-figure plus business moving forwards. They gave me the foundation, the roots, the mentorship, the knowledge to then go make the business that allowed me to have the freedom and the life that I wanted not even that long ago, which changed everything in my life, changed the whole trajectory of my life. So, number two, discipline. Discipline. Now, I have a different approach to discipline. It's going to be a lot different than a lot of different coaches and people out there and how they talk about discipline. Right or wrong, let that be up to you. Here's what I notice. So the reason why you need discipline is because you need consistent actions. You need to stay consistent. If somebody wants to get in shape, anybody can work out for 2 weeks every single day. That doesn't matter. That's not impressive. What's impressive is the person who is in there day after day after day after day, year after year after year, sticking to their commitments, following their routine, and getting the progress over time. That is what is impressive. That is what I call a lifestyle rather than someone who's just a dieter. And this is why when I had my weight loss coaching, and that's what I built first of all is weight loss coaching, and I was doing that full time, I had over 80 plus success rate. And the reason why is because we taught people the right way. We didn't just give them a diet and say goodbye. We helped them develop themselves. So you need consistent actions to produce the results in your life. So how do you develop this discipline? I think Joe Rogan says it's best. Joe Rogan says it best. He talks about how everyone thinks I'm disciplined, jujitsu, working out, the podcast, all these things I do. He says, I don't really think I'm disciplined, though, something along the lines there. And he talks about how basically he loves what he does. He loves what he does. So it's not really discipline for him. And this is why I say my angle on discipline is a little bit different because I built the business in two different ways. So there's first way is you can build your business, you can build your wealth, your money off of insecurity. And this is what I did at the start. When I was growing up, number one, and I'm so thankful for this, is my parents always pushed us to be the best we could absolutely be. And my dad was a big money talker, and he always talked about, you got to make a lot of money. You got to, money, the best money, 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 that. And I developed over time, my childhood stuff, insecurities, one of them, which was I never felt like I was enough. Mind you, I healed that and that's gone. That's why I'm going to talk about the other way here soon. But this was the first way I built my business. I remember waking up 3 in the morning, studying while everybody else was asleep. And then I would go into my office. I'd stay there 12 hours a day and I'd go to the gym after. And I did all that stuff that everybody talks about, right? First one in the office, last one out. But for me, it was coming from this crazy burning fire of I'm never enough. No matter what I do, no matter what kind of success I build, it is never, ever good enough. And guess what? You know what I found? Every time I hit a new record, wasn't enough. I need it more. Wasn't enough. I need it more. And that created crazy unbalance in my life. I basically shut out the outer world. I stopped hanging out with my friends. I moved to an apartment and before I had an office, and I didn't go out much at all. I didn't hang out with people, relationships, and I just grinded and focused on my business. Mind you, I don't think that's right or wrong. I think you can do whatever you want. But the way it came from, where it came from was insecurity. This insecurity of feeling like I needed to prove my parents wrong and that I felt like I was never good enough. So I need to go, 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 go. Because by me working my guts out, it made me feel that slight feeling that I want to feel, which is good enough. But here's the thing, guys, is that when you come from insecurity, like this is why a lot of billionaires and multimillionaires, they're unfulfilled and they're unhappy because the root of where they're coming from is lack. And they're trying to find in the materialistic world, they're trying to fill that inner feeling, but it's never going to fill them because it has to come from within and then the outer world will reflect it. So, from insecurity is where a lot of burnout comes from, a lot of lack of fulfillment, a lot of future suffering because you wake up one day and you realize, what the heck did I do with myself in my life? Why did I do these things? Because here's the thing a lot of us will realize over time is that you do these things not for the actual thing. Okay? You want that Mustang, that Lamborghini, you want that successful business, not because of the thing itself. You want it for the feeling you think you'll get from it. Just ask yourself, if I accomplished this thing, but it actually made me absolutely depressed and miserable, would I still want it? Probably not. Probably not. But a lot of people don't realize that because they're stuck in their old ways and their old programming, and they're coming from that lack and consistently trying to search it in the outer world. It's what we're taught a lot from growing up. And that loop keeps going until you can look within, find it within, unlock whatever it is going on, and then come out. And then everything else will be a reflection of that. So that leads me to number two, because yes, I did build the business off that. But number two, which is what I do now, and what I did as I was at the end phases of my first business, when it was growing to the highest points of its success, was coming from love. Was coming from love. Okay, and here's what I mean: following your passion, following and doing the things that you actually genuinely love to do in your life, because you can never run out of that gas, of fuel, when it's coming from love. When it comes from love, you constantly go, 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 go. You can't wait to wake up in the morning. Work does not feel like work. It is your passion. It is your joy. It is your fun. And when you come from a place like that, your life is going to be the best it's ever been. And one of the keys to business is not thinking in days or weeks, it's thinking in decades. Look at all the major companies. One thing they all have in common is they've been around for years, 100 years plus almost, some of them. But how do you do that? How do you keep that going? There's got to be love. You've got to love what you're doing. You've got to have a big mission. You got to have a big vision. Because when you can do that and you can trust in yourself, then it feels like you're just in flow. You're completely working with God. You're completely in alignment where it's like, this was the vision and the mission that was put into me, and I am perfectly in alignment with it. And we're going for it. And trusting that as you do that, the money is going to follow as well. And then you get both the best of the worlds. I wish someone would have taught me that first when I started in business, because what I did was, and mind you, I still did what I loved. I still did what I loved. But the approach I took to it, I followed others' guidance and it was helpful. It got me to where I need to be. But knowing what I know now, it would have been a complete game changer. Number three, master your beliefs. Master your beliefs. So, all goats, all greatest of all times agree that success comes down to identity. If you look at Dan Martell or all the other greats who've written all the books, you can't see it in my background, but I got a bookshelf back here. All the greatest they always talk about is that success comes down to identity. But you ever wonder why? Why is identity so important, right? Well, first of all, what creates identity? Because they can easily say, like, okay, you need to level up your identity. Actually, a fun fact, if you haven't watched my previous videos, I was in Dan Martell's program. If anybody doesn't know Dan Martell, multi millionaire, extremely successful man, but also a family guy. He's great in all areas, all areas. An amazing person. And I've actually been following him since I was in grade 10, following in his footsteps, messaging him, emailing him as along the way, trying to figure out my life. So he's an unbelievable person. I really look up to him. And I remember I was in his group program. And actually, you know what? I'll share this for the next step, for the next lesson, because you're going to want to wait till the next lesson. I'll come back to that. Anyways, I don't mean to leave you on a cliffhanger, but that just means you need to stay longer. So thank you. So identity. Identity is created. Okay, so what creates identity? First of all, why is identity so important? Why do they always talk about it? Because identity fuels behaviors, which produces actions. Okay, so identity fuels behaviors, which produces actions, and actions is what gets you the results in your life. But what produces identity? Well, if you watch Joe Dispenza or any neuroscientist, you'll realize that neurons that fire together wire together. Consistent thoughts and emotions held over time kind of create that vision, that picture in your head. Your brain can't tell the difference between imagination or reality. It just experiences everything in the now. So the more and more you think and feel that you are successful and rich, the more that will actually genuinely become your identity. When that becomes your identity, you will start thinking like them. You'll start acting like them automatically because it's who you are. It's now the program, the coding in your mind that is playing out. And that produces actions in which, like I said, creates the results in your life. But why did I say beliefs? Because a lot of people try to focus on changing their actions alone and they burn out. And the reason why is because your core beliefs run the show. The brain is made is that whatever you believe to be true, your brain then goes out to your external world and looks for evidence to reconfirm that core belief. Because remember, the brain doesn't want to be proven wrong. The brain will literally lie to you. It will literally filter out what does not serve the core beliefs. This is why you can literally create your own personal reality. And this is also why I hate to see people feel so limited and like victims and struggling because they don't understand how actually powerful they genuinely are. Your core beliefs are everything. So, core belief examples. Let's say money beliefs. Okay, if we're talking about money today, money beliefs. Money is evil, or there's a lack in money. There's not enough in the world. It's also a limited one that I didn't put down. Money's evil. You ever look on like Disney when you're growing up? What is the evil person? Who is the evil person in every single movie, every single show? Peter Pan, the one with the little kids, and I don't know, I forget what they're all called. But anyways, oh, the Dalmatian one. It's always the rich. The rich are always evil. So what do you think that's going to make you believe as you grow up? Or another thing, a lot of parents or a lot of people just have an unhealthy relationship with money. They stress about it, debt, stuff like that. They struggle with it and they talk about it and their kids hear it. What do you think that kid, maybe it was you, grows up to believe about money? Money's stressful. Money's hard to make. So these are forming all these beliefs, which, like I said, when you believe something to be true, your brain then filters that in to its reality. You focus on that. You find evidence for it everywhere. So it reconfirms the story over and over and over again. And we don't even realize that, hey, this is just a program. I can break this program and change my beliefs, which then changes my personal reality, which changes how I think and feel, which then changes how I act, which then changes my results. That's what I mean by you are the one manifesting your life nonstop. Most of us just don't even realize it because manifesting is like a hippie term, but it's real. You're always doing it. Moving on. Selling is for sharks. I heard this a lot from some people. You got to be a shark if in this world if you want to get ahead. That's not true at all. Not true at all. Where'd that come from? Right? That is a terrible belief. If you always believe that, you're always going to get burned and you're going to find yourself in sharky situations. That's an unhealthy relationship with money. Next, business is a scam. If that's what you believe to be true, I guarantee you're going to fail or you're going to feel like crap the whole time as you build your business. Next is what do we do with things that we hate? We ignore them, we throw them away. So if you actually hate money, if you don't like money, if you don't have a healthy relationship with money, you're going to neglect it. You're not going to pay attention to it. And it's not going to grow. Last one, lifelong student. Back to the story. So I was in Dan Martell's program. I always invest in myself all the time. I was in Dan Martell's coaching program in front of over 100 students. He called me out when I asked him a question about my business and how to level it up. Thought he was going to give me a strategy. You know what he said? He said, you need to level the F up, man. And then he booked a 10, 15-minute session with me one-to-one and not really tore me apart, but he told me the truth. And I spent weeks like, how do I level up my life? How do I keep leveling up my life anymore? And it clicked. I need to become more of a valuable man. I need to become valuable more. So what did I do? Lost 40 pounds, got in even better shape, changed my entire office decor, started investing in myself even more, sticking to more standards, more commitments. And guess what? Everything else grew as well. So you must be a lifelong student because I've seen people in his program talk back to him and not take the advice and let their ego get in the way. Guess what? Those people are probably still stuck in the same place. You have to be a student. You have to have, this is what he always says as well, strong beliefs, but loosely held. If there's something that's more true that helps you grow and get better, you've got to go and jump to it if you want to continue your growth and transformation. Number two is adapt, because when you adapt, everything's always changing. That's a guarantee. So you must change with it, must go with that flow to grow. Number three, follow others' advice who did it. There's people in this world who have done what you want to do and they left breadcrumbs. It's your job to pick up those breadcrumbs and figure out how you do it in your own unique way. Because everyone is different at the end of the day, but there is breadcrumbs to the trail to get to where you want to go. Lastly is invest in yourself always, because when you invest into a stock, right, when a bunch of people invest into one thing, what happens? It becomes more valuable. It becomes more demand. Do that with yourself. Invest into your knowledge. Go into programs. Get mentors. Heal your inner child wounds. Do all the work you got to do to get better, to grow. The person who never changes is the one who thinks they know it all, who thinks they're already perfect. So yeah, you are already amazing, but that doesn't mean you can't change and keep growing. So constantly invest in yourself, grow your personal value, and then the marketplace will see that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the video for today. I appreciate you so much for watching. I know this was about business and wealth, which I typically make my trainings around consciousness, personal development, universal laws, all that stuff, but it all ties into it because this is abundance. So if you like this training, if you like my trainings on business growth, make sure you leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know below, and I will keep it going with the flow. I'll see you guys later. Thank you.